Hey, everybody, Off the Mic Sports Network here. Another edition of Off the Top Rope. So NXT happened tonight. Not a whole hell of a lot happened. Trick Williams defended the TNA championship. Seemingly, he's heading back into a program with Joe Hendry with the TNA Slammiversary show coming up next month. So it's seemingly we're heading towards something there. Um, yeah, and just like not a whole lot of stuff happened on this show that was really of relevance. It seems like they're going towards Yoshiki Inamura, the Noah superstar who's come in and done a really decent job. Seemingly he's facing off against the upstart Jasper Troy, and that's going to be who challenges Obafemi at the Great American Bash. The big piece of this show was the main event, the Fatal 4-Way match to determine JC Jane's challenger at Evolution for the NXT Women's Championship. Jordynne Grace beats Lash legend Izzy Dame and Jada Parker. And this was very telling for me because also of note, a lot of people apparently big fans, and I don't blame them. Blake Monroe, the former Mariah May, is fantastic. Some of you guys are just a bunch of sickos who she's hot. We get it. But she's also a really good wrestler. She's got a very unique thing about her. I guess you could say the kids say aura. But she wasn't there. In the closing segment of last week's show, she was attacked by a fatal influence and put through a table. She was nowhere to be found on this show. And Jordynne Grace winning tells me that maybe my initial suspicions of, Blake Monroe ultimately, winning the championship and going to Evolution may not happen. She may be off of Evolution altogether, which I understand that she's literally been there for like a month, like 3 weeks to a month. And, she hasn't really done a whole, but the standard is there. And like I said, from a pettiness level to AEW to have her potentially be crowned as a women's champion on the same day. And maybe this is all a red herring and we get to, one of these shows in the next couple of weeks. And ultimately Blake Monroe gets a championship match at the Great American Bash, and that could change what happens. But if that's where they're going to go with this, then Jordynne Grace was not the right choice here, because Jordynne Grace, basically what this told me is Jordynne Grace is going to lose another match. And I don't like that either. I understand that she needs to go to the main roster, but if you're going to keep giving her title matches, like she's been in a Fatal 4-Way, she lost to Stephanie Vicker, and then ultimately Stephanie lost 2 days later to JC Jane. So I get from a natural progression that this would make the most sense. But listen, if you were going to go the route of potentially Blake Monroe being the next challenger, you would have thought that maybe whether she wins it before it or after it, that tells me Jordynne Grace isn't winning the championship. So that's a problem, because to me, Jordynne Grace shouldn't be losing as much as she has, because she's great. And at some point she's going to be on the main roster. And if you keep, I get the merit side of it, but Jada Parker didn't really make a lot of sense. Izzy Dame, nice for her to get a showcase. Lash Legend made a ton of sense to me, especially if they were going to go the route of having JC retain, because that was, to me, what was telling about that segment a week ago was that it's clear that Blake Monroe is going to be feuding with JC Jane. That's clear what's going to happen. That's the direction that this is going long term, that they're going to fight for the NXT Women's Championship. Whether that's before or after Evolution is yet to be determined. We don't know. But Jordynne Grace, to me, was not the right choice here to win this match. As much as I love her, and as much as I think realistically she was probably the easy winner here, you have a 4-way match. You could have easily had Lash Legend win and fight for the championship in her hometown. And then whether she has to face JC Jane or Blake Monroe in this spot, who cares? Like, she's not going to win, and Lash still has a lot of room to grow. And, it would be nice for her to get that moment in her hometown, but that's not happening clearly. So, that's part of this. But this was odd, man. And I understand there's some element of selling, but to not even have like a video package or anything of note really on this show related to Blake Monroe outside of selling the attack. There's not a lot of time before Evolution, everybody. It's 2 weeks from Sunday, okay? It's 2 weeks from Sunday, and literally the only match on the show is Jordynne Grace and J.C. Jane. And all due respect to J.C. Jane, I just don't. It doesn't feel like she belongs on this card. Like she had been meandering around in the mid card of this loaded women's division and gets a shock win over a very over Stephanie Vicaire, and she deserves it. Don't get me wrong, but it seemed like this was all a vehicle to get to the next place. And with her attacking Blake Monroe, like they didn't really follow up on it. I don't know what the direction is. And then on top of it, you have Jordynne Grace just win and get another title match where she's probably going to lose because it doesn't make any sense given what you told us on NXT last week that it's clear JC and Blake are facing each other. That's the direction. Why the hell did you have them interact? So that's my problem here. And I think it's and furthermore on this, to hammer this point home, if Blake Monroe is not on Evolution, that feels like a huge misfire from WWE. This is one of the most popular and most well-known women from her time in NXT, and also a lot of people in Stardom knew who she was. Mariah May, when she left, in terms of her age and her ability and her credentials already, is as talented of a woman as you're going to find. And her not being like on this show, they're wasting a week. So again, really what it comes down to is she going to get added to the match? Because her not being on that show really just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. It felt like that's where they were building this to, and now you're in a situation now where either JC's facing, like she's going to get there and face Jordynne, or Blake's going to face her the day before, and then Blake's going to get to face Jordynne Grace. And in either situation, with the way that you've told the story, Jordynne Grace isn't winning. And I know a lot of people want me to talk about Blake Monroe here, but also Jordynne Grace is really good, man. This is a woman who is one of the great TNA champions of all time. Self-made woman, did a lot of great stuff over there for TNA. Has come to NXT and has done absolutely, positively nothing. And pardon me to question Shawn Michaels, man, and the way he builds his women's division, but her losing another match ain't it, man. It ain't it. And you're really in an impossible situation here because you basically have just painted it out in plain English that, no matter what happens here with however they sort out this whole situation with Fatal Influence and Blake Monroe, Jordynne Grace ain't winning the championship. So she's just putting over people? Okay. And maybe they find a way to disguise this and not do a clean finish where, Fatal Influence screws her over and, that would be some degree fine. But we got to stop doing that, man. Like, you can't just have, like, all your... Like, Stephanie Vicaire didn't really lose. Like, her one loss, I think, before J.C. Jane was to Shotzi. Yes, Shotzi. That was it. And it was because... And here's the ironic thing about that. It was because of Fatal Influence. The only two losses that Stephanie Vicaire has taken as a pinfall in her entire WWE career. Not when she like, I'm not going to count like her losing that 4-way match in the Queen of the Ring tournament or Money in the Bank because she wasn't pinned. The only two times that she has lost and taken a pinfall in WWE so far is because of Fatal Influence. That's wild to even think about. So it's just a lot of stuff here is just odd to me. And the biggest point here to hammer home about this whole situation with NXT is that you can't leave Blake Monroe off of Evolution. You can't. And at this point now, with what they did here, and I said that this was a big point of what was going to happen on this show, I don't know what the path forward is because now I don't know who's going to be defending the championship. They seem to make it very clear that it is JC Jane. But if that's the case, then like I said, Jordynne's losing. Blake Monroe slides in, but it's not a... Like I said, I've been a big proponent, and I really enjoy a lot of what Shawn Michaels has done. He's had some misfires. This feels like a little bit of a mistake here because you've backed yourself into a corner with what you did last week. Now you do this week. I thought Lash Legend made a bunch of sense. Like I said, on merit, it's clear that Jordynne Grace was the winner here, but you could have gone a different direction. And now here you are in this situation where really, I don't know how they're going to sort this out because, like I said, a couple things need to be true. Number one, Blake Monroe needs to be on Evolution. Number two, Jordynne Grace can't take another loss. There's a chance that both of those things don't happen. There's a chance that both of those things don't happen. And two of your biggest high profile women signings that you've brought into NXT, that ain't it, man. That ain't it. So, pardon me to be critical about NXT. I really enjoy this product, but this was a weird one for me personally. So, anyway, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys. Bye-bye.